Hey Smoothers, how's it going? So today we're making a tier list of the best legends to use if you're new to Apex, or you're just bad, or maybe you're just having an off week, month, day, whatever. I mean, all the legends are good at something. These are just kind of the easiest legends to use. So if you're absolutely brand new to the game, I'm gonna suggest you pick Bloodhound. He is an S tier legend for my list. So you don't need to be good at the game to use your ability, which is a scan. That's going to help the rest of your team, and information in this game, such as seeing people through walls, is huge, meaning you can help the team without shooting anything. The ultimate and passive can also be pretty handy. The ultimate making you go faster and see enemies highlighted, and the passive making it so you know when people have been around. Once you get more experience with the game, the passive becomes not as useful, still kind of handy. Next up, we have Gibraltar in A tier. He is another legend you get right off the bat in the game, so if you're brand new, he's a good pick. Between Bloodhound and Gibraltar, if you have better aim, Gibraltar is the better pick for sure. I put him in A tier rather than S tier though, because I think you need a little bit of game knowledge to really use Gibraltar to his fullest extent. Gibraltar's ability being the bubble shield is amazing for throwing it on top of your down friend and picking them up. His passive, he takes less damage from everything, and his ultimate is amazing. The airstrike can be really useful for finishing downs or pushing people out of cover. Next up, we have Lifeline. My placement for Lifeline might be a little controversial, but I will explain. I'm putting her in C tier, and you might think Lifeline's the best character for the worst person on the team to use, but I disagree. If you're the worst person on the team, you're usually going down first, meaning Lifeline didn't really help at all. Lifeline only helped if someone goes down, you can revive teammates automatically, but it's not really useful to revive a teammate automatically if you don't know how to protect that res properly, if you know what I mean. Her ultimate is pretty good, but the problem is whenever you use it, you are just calling attention to yourself, and I think another legend just does her job better. Next up, we have Pathfinder. I put him in C tier, mainly because he doesn't have a passive. His ultimate's not great unless you know how to use it with like super jumps and stuff, and his tactical takes a little bit of training to really use to its fullest extent. So a person who's bad at the game or new to the game is not going to be able to use Pathfinder effectively. He is a fun character though, but I think Pathfinder is better used by the slayer of the team. This one shouldn't come as a surprise. Wraith is D tier for new or bad players. Wraith has been known since the start of the game as the legend that sweats use. Her tactical and her ultimate are amazing in this game, but I just can't see someone who doesn't really know about the game using those properly. Bangalore is B tier. She's always been a solid character, but the smokes can be pretty annoying if used incorrectly, and you need to understand how her smokes work, especially with the zone, because you can see through it when the zone is like behind it. So an inexperienced Bangalore could really be a detriment to your team. So she's B tier. Her ultimate is pretty helpful, and her passive just helps you survive a little bit better. You need to have good movement once her passive is activated, and that's the problem. Now on to Caustic. I highly recommend Caustic be your first character you buy. I'm a little biased because Caustic was the first one I bought towards the start of the game, but it was a good buy because you don't need to be good at shooting in this game at all to be good with Caustic. You just throw down his gas trap everywhere you go, and you're going to help your team. Plus, his ultimate is insane too. If you know a team is inside a building, throw your ultimate inside, and you might actually get more damage than the rest of your team. He also takes less damage from everything in the game, so you can't go wrong with Caustic. Mirage, I had a little trouble figuring out where to place him on the tier list, because I know new players are more likely to act like a bot or the decoy, so the decoys might be more effective, but from what I've experienced, new players tend to use his ultimate and then they just try running away and are super predictable. Plus, Mirage just really isn't a good legend in this game. He's gotten some buffs over the years, but honestly, I liked his old ultimate where he went fully invisible. I'm sorry, Mirage mains, if you're watching this. I think he can be really good, but for new players, stay away from Mirage. Next up is Octane. Octane is used by a lot of people in this game. He is a fun legend to use. His jump pad is one of the best ways to move around the map in this game. His stim is super useful only if you know how to have good movement. I see a lot of new players stimming as they head into a fight, which is automatically just putting you at a disadvantage. His passive heals him over time, which is great for, once again, the Slayer of the team, because this passive is most effectively used if you're also armor swapping, because then you never really need to heal in the game. And people that aren't good at the game don't armor swap. Wattson is B tier. You might be surprised that she's not closer to where Caustic was placed, but I think Wattson takes more skill than Caustic to use. Her fences can be really useful, and her ultimate can be too if you're setting up in a house. So if that's your team's playstyle, then Wattson is a solid pick. Plus, her shields do regenerate over time, so that's something that someone who's new at the game doesn't have to think about. It's a bad habit to learn, though, to not heal up your shields. Crypto, I'm putting in B tier. I think if you know you're terrible at FPS games and you can admit that, then Crypto is the perfect legend for you to use. Just stay in his drone and scan people, use his EMP to knock out 50 shields. There's nothing more annoying than having to fight a team while one of them is scanning you with the drone. I do think Crypto has a high skill ceiling, because without the drone you're nothing. So that's why I think you need to admit you're not good at first-person shooters to use Crypto in the way I'm talking about. He goes well with a charge rifle because that's a hit scan weapon, and you don't really need skill to use that. Revenant, I'm going to put in C tier. He's received a lot of nerfs recently. I just think there's other legends that are a better pick than Revenant. I mean, if you place down its ultimate, you're just asking for people to find your totem and wait to kill you once you spawn back in. New players at the game won't really know how to hide the totem or when to use the totem, so he's just not a great legend to use for new people. Loba is an A tier legend for people not great at the game or new. Her ultimate recharges fast, and it's the best way to get your whole team looted up and keep on moving. Her passive makes it so you can see loot through walls, which can be helpful. It's not a great passive, but it's okay. And her tactical is very strong. I think Loba is the better version of Lifeline because her ultimate recharges so fast, and you can just get way more loot than waiting for Lifeline's ultimate to recharge. Another S tier legend is Rampart. Rampart is great if you're normally bottom of the team. Her tactical, putting up walls that make your bullets do more damage, is absolutely insane. Her passive makes it so LMGs are even stronger, and if you're bad at the game, you should be using LMGs. Additionally, she has Sheila, which got a buff, meaning you can use it while walking around. Overall, Rampart is just an absolutely crazy good legend to use for people just starting the game. On the opposite end, we have Horizon, who is in D tier. I think Horizon, you need to have quite a bit of skill to use her. Her passive makes it so you don't get slowed when you fall large distances. And people at the game are not going to use this passive effectively. This passive is actually very good. Movement is everything in this game. And if you're not using her passive correctly, which goes well with her tactical, which is the elevator lift thing, overall, you're just not going to use Horizon to her full potential. And that's why I think you just shouldn't pick her. Her ultimate is only good, once again, if you know how to use it. Horizon is a great character, but not an easy one to use. And back to S tier, we have Fuse. Fuse is amazing for people who just can't aim. You don't need to aim at all with this guy. His tactical is a cluster grenade. His passive means you can hold more grenades. And his ultimate is a fire circle that marks people inside. With his passive of taking more grenades, you can take a bunch of thermite, grab a rampage, and just go ham. If you are constantly getting the bottom of the team, you should be taking Fuse. I promise you, your average damage will increase if you start using Fuse. And then back down to D tier, we have Valkyrie. Valkyrie is a great legend for people who know how to use her. The passive is a jetpack, which is great for getting into ratting spots or just avoiding people, but in order to do this, you need to know the map like the back of your hand. Additionally with this, her ultimate is great for rotations, but I don't think someone who's bad at the game should be in charge of directing where the whole team is going. I've had a few times where the Valkyrie of our team has flown us further away from the circle than we were before, just because they didn't know what they were doing. Her tactical is pretty good though, shooting a rocket barrage, but overall I think Valkyrie should be left for the better players on the team. Next we have Seer, who I'm putting in A tier because you literally have endless walls. You can see where people are with your heartbeat passive whenever you aim in. This goes well with his tactical, which is basically a Bloodhound scan, except a little harder to hit. If you do hit someone with his tactical though, you are just helping your team so much because they're going to be scanned. You can see them through walls for way longer than I think you should. Additionally, his ultimate is amazing. Whenever you get into a fight, just throw down his ultimate, and hopefully, since you're not very good at the game, your friends can clean up the rest. That's all you need to do is throw down your ultimate. And lastly, we have Ashe, the new legend. I'm putting her in D tier because Ashe is a very aggressive legend, so if you're not a Slayer, you shouldn't be using her. Her ultimate is great for pushing fights, her tactical is amazing for stopping people from running away, and her passive is an aggressive feature. Ashe should really be used on teams that are fully competent, I think, and that's why she is on the bottom of this tier list. But yeah, send this to that one friend on your team who's always the lowest and just can't seem to understand why they're always the lowest. Maybe they'll end up picking one of the S tier legends. Not that they aren't useful with whatever they're doing, but like, it definitely helps to be using the right legend. I mean, just until you start getting better at the game. Anyways, subscribe to support the channel, like if this helped, and have a good one.